out of spaces where they don't want them.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about offices still being open downtown itself, which is obviously why you still have vehicles in traffic like that. You know, it makes you wonder if eventually they will close off a number of the intersections in downtown Los Angeles just to avoid these kinds of incidents. I know, as far as we know, they haven't made way onto the 101 freeway. They have at least managed to keep them off the freeway, which is a good thing. And now I guess the question is, how do you get to a freeway if you need to get to it?
Yeah, Jasmine is also downtown. Jasmine Veal. Let's check in with her now. So, Jasmine, how's it looking where you are?
Yeah, Rudabeh and Pat, I want to show you what a difference a few hours makes. This is a hard closure right here, and look at the contrast to what's happening just a few blocks away. So they have cleared the protesters out of this area, and right here at Arcadia and Los Angeles Street above the 101 freeway, this is the line of officers, CHP officers we've seen, and LAPD.
This is what needs to be done.
The line here, not letting anyone through, and because down the
coming
way
to the
is that
country
federal
illegal.
building and U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement, where that large crowd of demonstrators had gathered earlier, even piling on top of the LA Mall. They were above, they were below. You had National Guard members facing off with those demonstrators, or at least just staring at the crowd, and then things really kind of escalated when rubber bullets were being fired onto the crowd below as they came too close to law enforcement. Take a look at this video. We were on top of the Los Angeles Mall with a bunch of protesters getting that bird's eye view when suddenly we were all pushed back and told to get off very, very quickly. Take a look. So again, those were rubber bullets being fired at the crowd of the protesters, pepper balls. I mentioned fired from above.
This is really a joke.
From that federal building, that location there at the crowd below, there was a lot of yelling, a lot of confusion sometimes, even the media trying to get off, get our equipment, and follow the orders of law enforcement as they were trying to clear the area. And the crowd had thinned out at this point. It was not as large as I saw it a few hours prior to when the skirmish line had moved it back down Los Angeles Street, but they were throwing water bottles, and I just heard a boom right now, so that it seems like they're trying to continue to push the crowd past LA City Hall. But you know, water bottles were being thrown, and it really escalates within a matter of seconds, and then things hopefully, you know, can remain as calm as they seem to be at the moment. People just waving some Mexican flags, driving past in cars, honking horns, but I'm not noticing anything too crazy here right at Arcadia, where they really have cleared out the area. And protesters, as we bring it back out here live, and you see these officers, and you know, you heard the police chief talk about how hard they are working. They're out here trying to keep the peace and maintain order.
They're trying to do something.
And protesters have told me too that they need more peaceful bodies.
They're trying to do something.
Many of these protesters said that they just want to get their message out. They did not want
why
to
they
see all
can't
the
do this in
vandalism
their
and
own
the looting
country,
and
though?
arson that
That's what
happened
I'm
over the
trying to
weekend.
figure out. Like,
right here where I'm standing, I want to show you
all this ruckus.
They
could do this and liberate themselves in their own country. Why come over
that was
here?
Burned yesterday, and you see
disrespect
just
the
one
black
black
folk
spot after
in
another
LA.
down Los Angeles Street. So tow trucks had to come in here, clear out all of this
and
rubble
then
after these
turn
cars
around
were set on
and then
fire.
make
There's
videos that we
graffiti
ain't out there helping y'all.
a few blocks around here, just
stupid.
really vulgar graffiti, and some of the windows that had been smashed in that we saw LA City Services cleaning up today. So a lot of hard work being put in after, unfortunately, some bad apples that took things to the extreme. Hoping we don't see that again on this Monday night.
You know what?
But yeah, live here from Arcadia in Los Angeles and downtown. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. Mentioning Waymo, we understand they certainly stopped their services in downtown Los Angeles anyway, because I believe at least 5 cars burned. We're going to bring Mike Rogers back in the conversation. You were here last night when those cars were set on fire.
Yeah, and that was about 5 o'clock in the evening. I mean, that was early that all started to happen, and they burned hot and long because the fire department wasn't safe for them to get in there as well. Really just a chaotic night. I will say it does, you know, we're looking at here, it does look like, you know, a sense of chaos here, but I just have to draw the comparison from tonight to last night. I mean, last night was just so much worse in downtown. Tonight, LAPD is able to keep the crowd moving. As we talked about earlier, every time they do that, it really splinters them up. I want to ask our director, Mike Parrott, to go to our other other helicopter shot because I want to show you Santa Ana. This is where Michelle Geely just was. And something of note, like we've talked about so many times with these protests, they really ebb and flow. While Jasmine was talking and Lori was talking, we saw a lot of activity where somebody was trying to set things on fire. Tear gas was being shot, pepper balls was being shot. But as John kind of pushes in, something that we've noticed is different from what Michelle was telling us earlier. That's about the entirety of law enforcement that is here. Those look like federal agents. They, we had seen Santa Ana PD earlier in Michelle's shot doing, skirmish lines, but we don't see that now. And here we go. They're going to activate again. So we've got we've got federal law enforcement agencies that are pushing towards the crowd. They're using those pepper balls, and you'll see these crowds begin throwing things at them. There goes some tear gas that just got thrown. We'll see that get moved because here comes a van. That's why. So they're going to start throwing things at the van. And what's interesting, though, is I don't know where Santa Ana police went because there was a lot more of them. That almost looks like a prisoner transport van. There were people sitting in the back there. So you've got this small handful of federal law enforcement that have moved forward here with that orange type of tear gas that is being used. But they are certainly outnumbered by the amount of protesters that are down there. So they did back up, though. They definitely did not like the tear gas. So the crowd backed up. They're at least on the other side of the street back towards the parking lot. And pushing back even further after they launched that tear gas. So that's been kind of the situation down here. Michelle was down there. She showed us that as well. I don't know what happened to Santa Ana PD, but now it looks like it's being held up by these members of the federal law enforcement agency. It looks like I see HSI down there. I can't tell who some of the other agencies are as well. John telling me Duke, which is OC Sheriff's helicopter, is just orbiting. They had a Department of Homeland Security Black Hawk that had been orbiting this scene as well. That looks like it went to March Air Force Base for fuel, and now you've got Duke from Orange County Sheriff is orbiting. So it's this situation, as soon as the agents back up, everybody comes back into the street and they, play the game all over again. Obviously, though, it looked like they were trying to protect that van that was coming through. There's also a weird kind of sideshow thing going on over here where it looks like there may have been a celebrity or something that was out here. They were taking pictures with people. The crowd was really excited to see him.
Taking pictures?
That guy looks like he's actually gone away now. So lots of people milling about. You've got the people that are more engaged with law enforcement, but then just kind of a very spread out type of scene over here.
It's interesting, too. We see a lot of activity.
They ain't stupid, though. They ain't like us.
Just, my opinion from watching this since we've been on
we
the
had
air.
that ride. Them niggas is out there in LA.
View,
pulling niggas out the
crowd.
These motherfuckers playing.
Goes forward.
They playing.
And tries to get closer to the federal building. And, of course, the vans get things thrown at them. Well, okay, I don't know what this gentleman here is doing, but...
and that's...
What was that?
This is on a rooftop?
That's an actual rifle. No, it's on a elevated platform, and that federal agent is pointing a rifle at somebody.
Oh, shit.
That's...
the guy in the yellow, I guess.
Yeah,
two guys.
and you can see they're kind of taunting each other. You saw that federal law enforcement agent, wave his hands like, let's go, let's go. And that guy in the yellow doing the same thing. I mean, something escalated quickly to point, lethal munitions at that person.
These motherfuckers
that was intense there for a second. So I don't know what the conflict was with that person in the yellow, but that federal agent with the rifle there was not having it. There's some fireworks now that we see going off too.
Maybe that's what that was about, but that can get even more dangerous when you're actually. We actually witnessed this. We saw him. You say that's a lethal weapon.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yes,
that's an
absolutely.
actual. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why you put that shit out.
That's not good.
You can see the provocation happening right here, and then
there's some more tear gas.
Yeah.
And now what we've seen, we haven't seen it here, but what we saw a lot yesterday is the tear gas would get thrown, and the protesters would grab it and throw it back at the law enforcement officers. That happened to CHP a lot yesterday when they were trying to regain control.
Get your dumb ass popped.
So, but that hasn't happened here. Hopefully they'll de-escalate this a little bit. But this guy on the left here, that agent on the left with the lethal
Ghostbusters jacket you got on, boy, you better get
was
the
not
fuck out
having
of
whatever
there.
was going on.
No, it was pointed right at that guy.
And see, look, he's waving him over.
Keep tagging that before. They're gonna pop. They're gonna put some in your ass, boy.
The agitators.
See, there he goes again, pointing it at him. So I couldn't tell if that agitator did. I mean, you certainly law enforcement does. That's been kind of the name of the game for them, and that's something that they say they need to do to protect themselves and their identities. A lot of the protesters did, and John, if we can see that guy in the yellow, I don't know if he's got one on.
Shout out to the black folks that ain't in this shit, man.
That's why I asked that question, because with that tear
already
gas,
know what y'all going through with the Mexicans in California.
Really.
Ain't no secret.
Well, and the problem with tear gas is it's blowing back towards the agents.
That shit.
That deployment of it didn't go super well for them. Because now it's coming right back into their face.
Yeah, you can see the cloud of it there,
Let them
how
get a taste of
strong
what
it
we
is.
was
You can
going
imagine
through.
what it's like on the ground,
Let them
just
feel that
seeing the
shit.
cloud. Just a tense situation overall. When we had
'Cause
that
our
wider
struggle
shot of the
ain't the
protesters and the
same.
demonstrators
Different.
in the parking lot, they were very spread out. And then you see the law enforcement kind of sticking together as a unit with a tactical approach. And then you see a line there. You see them in various places holding a line, whereas the protesters sometimes are together, sometimes they're scattered.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that sometimes
ain't
the
gonna do
law
nothing.
enforcement officers will
They ain't
come
gonna
and
do
break
shit.
them up. But you can see how scattered they are around. It looks like a whole city block.
Yeah, not a very organized group as we've seen in other situations, and really,
Out of
what we saw
all this,
last
where's
night
the
too,
fucking governor?
when the night started
Where's
to
the
get
governor?
winding down a little bit, as you see
Where's
a
the
group of not
mayor?
very many people causing the most problems.
They letting this
But
shit
now,
happen.
well, as we say that, it looks like a bunch of them are starting to kind of move forward.
Ain't no
back towards
fucking
those
way you
agents.
gonna
But
come in my house,
I am
in my
surprised that I don't see Santa
backyard,
Ana PD here. It seemed like when we were
disrespect
talking to
me
Michelle,
like
they were
this.
holding it down a little bit better.
I let
than,
you in.
this small handful of
You a guest.
federal agents that are here.
Fuck
Also
wrong with
not
you?
here, noticeably not here, is the
So y'all
National
just gonna
Guard.
let them
The
tear it
National
up. Y'all
Guard
gonna
is
let them
here. They're
tear
protecting
Compton.
buildings in Los Angeles. We know that they have deployed 2,000 of them, but are only using, according to federal officials, 300 National Guards troops. So it's, who knows why they haven't deployed them to Orange County and Santa Ana.
Man, they bogus as
So
hell.
what federal officers are we looking at here?
So I've seen HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations, and that may be all HSI. It's hard to tell because especially the guys that are wearing kind of the camouflage. It gets DHS, Department of Homeland Security. That's with the yellow, the less than lethal pepper balls there. It just gets difficult to kind of tell exactly who's who because it's hard to see some of their patches. But yeah, I mean, in downtown we had seen ATF, DEA, FBI. This primarily looks like Department of Homeland Security and HSI, but it's kind of hard to tell totally without being able to see their patches.
Okay, somebody just walked out. Now, all right, I guess she must be with law enforcement.
Yeah, and it looks like they're trying to redirect or maybe redeploy some of their efforts here to other parts, and I don't know if they're seeing.
It is kind of ironic, though, that you have so many National Guardsmen.
Sorry, folks, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here.
Headed to Los Angeles, and here we are in Santa Ana with just a small number of federal agents and local law enforcement protecting this federal building with a couple of agitators there. You see the person in the yellow and a couple of others. And most of the rest of the crowd seems to be peaceful as far as we can see from the chopper video.
Yeah, and who knows if that's
they might let me rob a bank
here, because certainly in Los
let
Angeles
me
County,
out, get a loan,
that's what the president has been going
rob
after, is the mayor, the governor as a whole. But it is a very good point, and to notice that there is no National Guard here, and that these federal agents are certainly outnumbered.
We can't
by the
do
number
the
of people
same
that are here.
shit, man. That's just
but
fucked
to your
up. As
point,
Americans, I'm not talking about no
engaging
black
with
and
them
white
is
shit.
a
I'm
much
talking about as
smaller
American people, man. We can't even do
group
this shit.
than the people that are just kind of looky-looing and kind of hanging out.
Especially
back there.
black folks.
They are starting to get closer. They are getting
wouldn't
more
be
bold
standing there.
as
Shit, black folks doing this, man. They be on our ass.
Are standing there on the stairs.
They would not be standing there.
Yeah, see now I can't.
Now they have
police
shields.
would be
It looks like
involved.
they're taking something, rocks.
Yeah. Okay, here comes some more
They're
tear
throwing
gas.
it. That's right.
See what I'm saying, man? They wouldn't even. Man, we wouldn't even have a
trying to
chance.
bat
That
it back
whole
as to
fucking
the,
street would be smoked up with tear gas and shit.
To officers.
And yesterday, I mean,
Man, they
when we
been
saw
aiming at us
CHP,
with
they
choppers
were
and
basically
everything,
in a
man.
soccer
Black
match
folks
with
out
tear
there
gas
doing
and
that.
just kept kicking it and balling it
It
back
goes
and
to
forth
show
with
you
each
what's
other.
happening. I'm telling
You
y'all,
see they
this
have their shields
Democratic
out
Party,
now.
man. I'm telling
A
y'all.
little bit different
This
than
is
the posture
proof.
before.
Proof in the fucking pudding.
Things definitely seem like they're getting a bit
And the
more
pudding
tense
is very
down
fucking
here
bitter
in the
right
way
now,
that this
B. I ain't
is
trying to
doing
eat
it,
that
and
shit.
those protesters that are
I don't even
becoming
want
more
your
willing to
pudding.
get a little bit closer and taunt those federal
Put
agents.
proof
a
in
little
that
bit more.
motherfucker.
Well, you see, I was about to say, especially those two, but now there are others that are maybe getting up enough nerve to try to come forward. You would think Santa Ana PD would know about this and come to the scene.
Right. Well, that's what's interesting is they were here. I mean, when we were talking to Michelle earlier, they were there. So I don't know why they've chose to withdraw from the area. If that was a tactical decision, if the Fed said, "Hey, we're good," it's hard to tell exactly. Why that decision happened. I'm
y'all ain't do that for the people that
just make
stormed
sure,
the
John, we don't
Capitol.
see Santa Ana PD.
Y'all was on their ass.
Certainly, they're not.
Y'all locked some of the motherfuckers up.
Action is
they were
between
white.
law enforcement and between the federal agents.
So it ain't a black and white thing. This is some
So here's some more
man.
federal.
Tell y'all,
looks like federal
y'all
vehicles
better
coming
wake
in.
up.
That looks like it may be Santa
into
Ana
this
PD.
black and white shit. Yeah, you got some ones that don't like
right there. Yeah,
right.
the black uniforms.
Yeah, so you've got that's Santa Ana PD. So you've got. So the cars are more federal agents that are coming in. Those are with, you see the Arizona license plates. Then the police officers that are standing on foot, that is Santa Ana PD. So why is Santa Ana PD not up with the ones on the steps that are kind of taking the brunt of this? Who knows? But this may be more federal agents that are going to come deploy right out front to deal with the crowd that is obviously clashing with the federal agents at the front.
Okay,
And
you
shit,
just
half
said
the
Arizona
PD
license
probably
plate,
messed
so that
with
obviously
shit. They
means
probably
too
Hispanic.
that even the law enforcement.
There ain't nobody
Chief
fucking with them,
McDonald said they
man.
were
You know, most
bringing
of them cool,
sources
got
of
family members
municipal
over there
aid
and
from
shit,
other
man. Come on,
departments. It looks
man.
like the federal is doing the same
They
thing.
cool. That's
Yeah,
why they
they'll
ain't
get them from
fucking
wherever
with
they
them. They
can, and now
fucking
you've
with
got
the
the
ones
crowd
on the
even in
stairs.
the
They're
parking
not
lot
fucking with
starting to
them.
push back. I thought I saw somebody shoot some less than lethal rounds.
like
over
favoritism.
There. So
You know what I'm saying?
hopefully the feds are going to get some of this extra help that they need out there, because they're definitely outnumbered up there on those steps, and you've got Santa Ana PD holding the line back over here by what Michelle was describing as the Sally Port.
And I know we're looking at Santa Ana now, but we talk about Chief McDonald of LAPD talking about just how unconventional this is, and talking about kind of the normal process where
This is when the governor's supposed
LAPD
to come
deals
out
with
and
it,
say,
then they
look,
bring in neighboring
y'all here
agencies to
legal?
help, then they would bring
Y'all
out and
overstayed y'all welcome?
bring in the
Glad y'all was
sheriff's
here?
department. The sheriff's
But you
department
gotta
would then
go.
reach out to the governor,
The
who
governor
would
and the
then
mayor can come
request
out
the
in
National
all of
Guard. But
this
all
and
of
say,
that
you
has
know
been
what, man, whatever assets y'all
bypassed
got,
in
we'll
the
try
case
to
of Los
hold it,
Angeles,
preserve
at
it,
least,
send it to you.
where the National Guardsmen
Something.
were
They could have
sent
did
in
that.
along with the Marines, and now we're seeing Santa Ana, where there are no National Guardsmen, as far as we can tell.
Well, and
I'm sorry that
Chief was
y'all
talking about this
invested
last night, though,
into
even
this
outside of
country,
Los Angeles County,
but y'all
because
came
the
in
federal government has
illegally.
federalized
I'm
the California
sorry,
National Guard.
shit.
Even if the sheriff of Orange County wanted the federal guard or the National Guard, they are not available to them necessarily, because the governor is no longer in control of them. Certainly, Orange County
Shit, I
historically
can't
has
get
a
mad
better
if they
working
come take my
relationship with
house if
federal
I got it
authorities,
illegally.
and, sometimes
Can't
with
be
the Trump
mad at that.
administration in that situation.
That's
And it
the
looks
way
like
it is.
Somebody is hurt,
Injured?
or at least laying down.
Oh yeah. We don't
If I
know
purchased
they're
a house with some
they're
illegal
wiping their
money,
eyes.
Well, and
they
they've
can
got,
come
so
get
look at
it
the people that
and
are helping
take
them.
it.
They've all got
There's
kind of
nothing
red
I could do.
crosses taped on themselves. That red
That's just the
badge would
way it
be
is.
kind of like what a mobile
When
medic
you
would
do
use
something
sometimes during
illegal,
concerts and stuff.
nothing
So
you can
I don't know
do.
if they've designated a group of people to
It's
be
the way it is,
medics
man.
in this kind
You
of
gotta deal
situation
with the
for something like this.
consequences.
Volunteers.
Yeah.
A lot of times volunteers show up at protests, and you see it looks like milk, which is a common thing that protesters use when
Tear gas.
when they have tear gas in their eyes, because sometimes water really doesn't work. So it looks like at least some of them are a little bit prepared and signaling to others that they can help them medically. Now we see some other people who it looks like they're also taunting this police line. This is the local Santa Ana
See,
police,
now they
right?
fucking with the
Yeah, Santa Ana
police.
police there on the left.
This is what
And
I'm
then you've got
talking
the
about.
feds
The
that are
police
still,
ain't even fucking with
up on the
them.
steps
They
as-
fucking with
as,
the
you know, you got
police.
you look like a group of younger people riding bicycles.
They goofy
through
as
there.
hell.
And then there's obviously the agents that are still
The
up on
man
steps,
done
John.
told
Yeah,
the
they're still
police
up there,
don't
okay.
even
And then you've
interfere,
got
but
the,
y'all
I
gonna
don't
go
see where
fuck
that
with
guy
the
in the yellow
police
went, so
now.
maybe he got bored and
That goes to
left them
show
alone,
you,
but
man.
he
These
was
folks
certainly
don't give a
taunting
took his
fuck
them.
jacket
about
off.
nothing.
Yeah, right.
But,
They
you
ain't
know,
giving a fuck about
again,
ICE. They ain't giving a fuck about
we
the
had
sheriff.
talked
They ain't giving a
about
fuck
this,
about
or just as
LAPD,
speculation that as soon as they
GBBCD.
see
They ain't caring
some
about nobody.
federal vehicles, maybe that's why they started moving in.
Yeah.
Approaching the federal building all
Now
of a
the
sudden,
police
because we're
chilling. They
wondering why
feel
is this
back. They
happening all
doing
of
their
a sudden,
thing.
even if it's one or two.
And they go over there and fucking with them.
quote, brave,
They not even
put
fucking
that
with
in quotes,
y'all.
Yeah.
These the
protesters,
motherfuckers on
but
the
maybe
stairs
that
trying to
is
get
the reason
y'all.
why when they see these vehicles. And now,
They
yeah,
got
they
no
certainly,
people don't have no
there's
respect
only
for
a
law
few
enforcement.
right now in terms of,
None.
federal
Yeah,
authorities
law
on the steps
enforcement
there.
ain't fucking with you.
Another question, we
LAPD
don't
chilling.
know just how these raids
They
are
ain't
being
doing
carried
shit.
out.
And y'all going
how
over there fucking with 'em.
late they can go? Can they show up at any place after dark and
Look at that. Why y'all even
make a
over there?
sweep
Y'all
of
ain't supposed to be
people?
nowhere near
I don't really
them.
know the
Then
ramifications.
y'all move
Do
from
you know
over there to over here.
Right, no,
You
and
gonna get
it
mad.
kind of depends. I mean, if they're going to do it in the form of a warrant, there are certain
They were
rules and
told to
requirements,
stand
at
down,
least at
not
the
even
local level,
touch
and forgive
y'all.
me, I
But
don't
see, look,
entirely
y'all
know the
going
federal
over there
level. If you want
fucking
to
with
do an
them instead of
overnight
saying,
warrant
all
or a
right,
no-knock warrant,
y'all
that
ain't
is
in it,
specified
cool.
in the type of warrant that you get. I don't know that that has to be done at a federal level. I will say though,
See,
we've
this is
seen
what I'm talking
immigration
about, man. I'd
enforcement
be like,
action
fuck the mayor, fuck the
in
governor.
Los
We
Angeles,
finna
in
kick
other
they
counties
ass.
across the Southern California here.
Let's get with
where
these
they are in,
motherfucking
they're out,
ICE
it's
and the
quick,
sheriffs. Let's
right?
do
But what we
this.
saw on Friday
Fuck
was
this
kind of this
shit.
lingering enforcement action by the federal agents. And so you wonder if they
I ain't finna hold shit.
The Trump
I ain't even
administration
fucking
has
with
said,
you.
"We
You
will
coming over
continue to do
here.
this
That's
no
your
matter
problem
what."
right there. But y'all coming over
bring in
here.
as many forces as we need to facilitate that. But you wonder if
See
they're
how
going
they
to want to
do,
start
man.
doing it in a faster way,
Ungrateful,
where they're
man.
not. You don't have these
Ungrateful,
agents that are kind of
unappreciative.
lingering like they did on Friday, and giving people the chances. And Saturday, I mean, in Paramount on Saturday, Border Patrol came in and did a thing, and they were there long enough for crowds to gather and to come protest them and all of that. And that is fairly unusual when they do these. We're usually seeing situations where they're in, they get who they want, and they're out. And they move through pretty quickly.
But the only thing
and it
about
doesn't give
this
time
is what
for
I don't like
crowds to
about
gather.
this.
But Friday and Saturday,
Right?
they stayed
This is what I
around
don't
long enough
like,
for
man.
crowds to gather,
Because
which then caused these
if
really
people
chaotic
vote a
situations.
Democrat
So
president
we'll
back
see
in
if
here, they're
the
gonna
ones
just
we
bring him
heard
right on
today
back.
Didn't manifest
They're gonna bring
long
him
enough
right
for
on
those
back.
crowds to get created. It certainly in Santa Ana, it wasn't. Michelle had told us it was a Carl's Jr. and a
But
Home
I'm
Depot,
glad
and
to see
those agents didn't stay there
who's
long enough
behind
to
what.
draw enough
Now
attention
I
to themselves
know
to create a
the
crowd at
Democrat
those
Party is
locations.
behind a lot of
It
this
ended up being here
bullshit
at the
that's
federal
going on
Of
that's
course,
happening
that's
to
part
us
of the
here in
strategy
America.
of the federal government as
All
well,
of
right? To
us.
make a statement,
Right.
to make a show of force, and to gain media attention, to make a statement that we are conducting these raids and that you should be afraid if you're here and you're not documented
Man,
and
to be
have
honest
entered the
with you,
country
man,
illegally. And then
I
we
was
heard
thinking
Mayor
this.
Bass in Los Angeles also talk about people who are showing up at federal facilities
These people,
to
man,
go through
they
the
got these people over here to
process
purge
of
us,
getting a
man.
green card or getting
I'm telling
citizenship
y'all.
Keeping their appointments.
and keeping their appointments, and then also being arrested and detained.
Cause I heard
there,
a
in some
lot of
cases,
blacks
entire
done
families.
fled
And
California,
she
man,
said that
done fled them
she was
areas.
concerned that
I
that
heard
would
some
push the
Mexican
people
gangs
who are
that took
trying
over
to go through the legal
some
process
blood
into
areas
the
in
shadows. So she
certain
mentioned
areas,
that,
man,
a
out
lot
there.
of
I've
anger
heard
at her
some
press
stories.
conference earlier.
I don't know
So
how true
I
they
think
are,
that is, and we
but
have heard
that is
President
true.
Trump also talk about that, and other
Man,
members of the
this needs to
administration,
happen then. Black
that
people
is
need to
part
come
of the
on back,
strategy
man.
to make that
Black
show
people
of
should have
force
never let this
and
happen
send
in the
that
first place.
message.
But
Well, you know what's sad today, and I'm going to use
the
the
trick
word
of it
sad,
was,
because there
this
were a
is the
number
trick.
of students who graduated.
When the
And
black people
from the
hear a
reports that I
Republican
heard, there
saying,
were a
I'm going to cut
number
this, do this,
of
and do
young
that,
people quite
Democrats automatically
upset
say,
that
they're going
their
to cut the
parents or
benefits.
family members
They're going to
were
mess with your
afraid to
benefits like
show
they're doing
up
now.
to graduation
They're going to mess
because
with your
they were
benefits.
afraid that they would be
Benefits that you
swept out.
never getting
And
anyway.
one young lady, if I'm not mistaken,
You voting
you
to
know, said her
protect
parents,
benefits
when they
that
had
most of y'all
applied
not getting
for
anyway.
documentation,
You
but they
voting
were
to
still
protect
scared and they
benefits to give to
couldn't make the
them.
graduation. So,
Honestly,
that's sad to me, no matter how
yeah,
you look
you
at it
voting,
or
you
what
protecting
side
the benefits. The
that
Democrats,
you're on,
yeah,
how
oh
you
yeah,
feel
vote
about
for
this
us. We'll protect the
situation,
benefits.
because these are young
We'll make
people
sure y'all
who
get it, because if you
they
let a
grew up here,
Republican,
they
they're
go to
gonna cut
school
it.
here,
That
but
Medicare, they're gonna cut this. Okay,
if their
we vote
parents
for
or
y'all.
loved ones are
Y'all saving
not
the
here,
benefits, right?
or
We
should
go
I was
apply,
going to say
we
not here
deny.
legally, but again,
They go
we have
apply,
to
they
make
approve.
some kind of
So
determination, or
I'm
maybe
starting to
someone will
think
tell us,
you
if you have a
all
green card,
are
are you
voting
okay?
against
If you
your
have a
best
work
interest.
visa, are you
I don't vote
okay?
for the Democrat
If
Party.
you've
I'm
applied
not a Republican
and you
either, but
haven't been
hey, I'm
reached
more of a
legal status
conservative.
yet
I'm
as a
more on that
citizen, now,
side
are
than
you okay
the
or
liberal
not?
side.
Right.
I haven't heard any distinct answers
You
to
know,
those
we keep
questions,
voting and
and
voting
that's what
and
I'd like to know,
voting,
because people
and people
ask
say,
me
man,
and
we
I
ain't getting
can't
nothing for our
really
vote.
answer it.
That's why,
Well, and
because we
even to that
voting for
point,
the wrong
we
type of
spoke with that
shit and
attorney
for the
who said
wrong
her
people.
client had
So you're
a
not going to get
stay
nothing for
from the
your
Ninth Circuit
vote.
Court of
They're
Appeals,
getting something for your vote.
prohibiting
You're not
government
getting
from
anything from your
deporting
vote.
her client, and they still detained him. And she said, when she asked the agents,
And they
why are you
ungrateful. They
detaining him
got
if
the
you know you
nerve to
can't
do
deport
this.
him? Their answer was, because we can. And so that's according to that attorney. But that makes it very gray for a lot of people to understand, where am I at in this process? Can I be deported? Can I not be? Even if I can't be deported, I can still be detained. It gets very confusing. And to your point about graduation, the Huntington Park mayor said today that they're at the graduation.
That's why I'd rather
there
vote
was a
for a
false rumor
Republican,
that
because at
ICE was
least I
outside,
know
and it
that
panicked
motherfucker
people
ain't
that
gonna
were
cough up
inside,
shit for
and some people
nobody.
left because they were
Nobody.
afraid that the immigration officers were
Nobody.
outside.
And federal policy has been changing as well.
Trump ain't
Those who are
gave
awaiting
nobody a
refugee
stimulus.
status,
Nobody
whose
got
countries are
nothing
no
yet.
longer on the list.
Let me just
those
say
who are
yet,
awaiting
because you never
amnesty.
know, motherfucker
A
might.
lot of questions for
You know
so
what I'm
many people
saying?
in the community. We are going to
But
keep an eye on
you know,
this in
let's
Santa
keep
Ana
praying, keep our
from
fingers
our
crossed. We
live
might get something.
helicopter
You know
video.
what
We're
I'm
going
saying? I
to
don't
check back
know,
in now
but
with Lori
what I
Parrish. She
do
has
know
moved
is
locations
ain't nobody got
and
shit
is still in
right
downtown
now.
LA. So Lori, we see
Them
quite
people
a
ain't
big
getting
crowd
nobody
behind you.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've hiked
this was
quite a
Joe
few blocks
Biden,
to get
them
over
people
to
would have
where
another
we
check
can get a good vantage
and
point
more
of the
benefits,
protesters facing off with law
food
enforcement.
stamps,
We are on the steps of the
hotel
Japanese
rooms to
American
sleep in.
National Museum, and this is where they have kind of stopped walking.
I can't even get a
where
fucking
the
medical
LAPD
card.
has kind of stopped
I
pushing
can't even
them
get
forward.
food stamps
So they're just kind
because
of staging
I
here
make
now.
so much money. But shit,
crowd,
y'all taxing the motherfuckers.
Considerably quieter than they were before as they face off with LAPD officers, just kind of lingering here in the intersection. And I will tell you, when we were coming through Little Tokyo, it was bizarre to be walking through, that main restaurant area. There were people inside the restaurants eating and drinking and kind of peering out from the windows. There were workers in the stores and the restaurants. Faces to the glass with the doors closed as this entire situation took over the road and went past their establishment. So it was kind of bizarre to see. Also, there's a hotel. We could see
you and I could never get the state to go against the government, the federal government for either one of us. We could never do it. We could never. The state would never go against the federal government for black people. For
kind
us
of just
individually,
American contrast to what was happening in the restaurants and in the hotel versus what was happening on the street. And of course, as you saw, mixed with so many cars because they didn't close the street down, right? So there were still cars on the street who were trying to navigate carefully their way down the street, continuing their travels, but suddenly being surrounded by protesters and by the police force. So for the time being, this is kind of a calmer situation where we are a strong force of police. You can see have established a perimeter, not allowing them to come down onto the campus here of the Japanese American National Museum, and then further down to the Museum of Contemporary Art. But this is right at the heart of Little Tokyo here, where the protesters have now stopped walking. The police have stopped walking. And so we're going to keep an eye on things here because certainly there are a lot of treasured things in this area that we don't want to see destruction to. Last night, once the sun went down, that's really when things escalated, when there really seemed to be a different element of people who lingered.
Now they fucking with the police, man. I told y'all,
that does not repeat itself on
the police is not supposed to get involved. They're not supposed to help.
That when you said there are a lot of treasured
ice and shit,
area, and there are
man,
a lot of
fuck
people
that.
who may still be alive or their parents or grandparents who remember what happened.
Escort them on over there to ICE, man. Fuck all that. Y'all gonna come at me and set up a perimeter and
so
what y'all gonna do to us?
We are taking a live shot now from KCAL. And
y'all motherfucking LAPD. Y'all ain't supposed to be letting nobody walk up on y'all like that.
Where we are
y'all the most racist
we're technically
in the
first to
motherfucking
Japanese Village
States.
Plaza. We're coming into Little Tokyo. They've been able to significantly move the crowd to the south now. And I'm trying to see your next major is going to be almost Alameda, near First and Alameda. So we've gotten away from all of Civic Center area. We've gotten away from City Hall.
Yeah, come on,
we've gotten
man.
away from the courthouses.
Come on, police,
and LAPD has done a good job of pushing everybody kind of to the south in hopes that they'll eventually just kind of start dissipating and getting out of here. And the crowd, last time I saw a more wide shot of the crowd,
the new niggas.
It was starting to get a little bit
smaller. These are the
new
niggas. Here y'all go.
Haven't seen a ton of clashes. I mean, LAPD just kind of, does their thing, pushes them forward, and then they move about. And every time they get to an intersection,
where the dogs
the crowd
at? Y'all ain't got the dogs out for them,
smaller when they do that. But there
you
see right here on First Street. And I wanted to point out something that we saw earlier, which was when we see the crowd run, it's almost like they're doing right now. It's likely because LAPD, when they're in this kind of tactical formation, and they have these platoons that are moving about, they do it in a running formation. So they're not necessarily running to anything, but when those officers make those movements, those officers are running, which then naturally kind of makes the crowd run as well. So that is sometimes what happens. And then you get out to here,
like y'all do
to this street where you've got cars and traffic just, kind of moving here as they try to go about the business. And you've got this kind of group that is starting to spread out a little bit.
Go ahead, because they're coming at y'all.
Move into this area here in downtown LA at first. And I believe this next major is going to be Alameda or somewhere that's close to it, maybe San Pedro Street.
We had heard Chief McDonald say earlier that he was calling in, did he say 400 LAPD? 400 additional LAPD officers. And when we look at these groups splinter off into smaller groups, I I know that makes them less lethal, but it's also probably a good thing to have extra officers where they may sort of anticipate where they could go.
Right. And really quick, Pat, I want to ask if we can go to Santa Ana really quick. There was just a development, and it looks like that most of the crowd just kind of pushed away here. But Santa Ana police made significant progress in pushing this crowd forward, and they actually just threw a ton of smoke. I can't tell if they actually used tear gas, but there was smoke down there as well. There was tear gas.
How come they can't do this?
I think that's what got the crowd moved out. You're still looking at downtown, Nate. I don't know if we can switch over to the other chopper and look at Santa Ana really quickly.
I
just want to show people that they've
real nice. They're going to show you they can be nice.
Thank you. This is Santa Ana now.
See,
pushing that crowd away from the federal building. You see that pond over there.
It can be real
right,
nice.
All the way back down here. Thanks, John. That is the Santa Ana Police Department.
They don't have
finally
to be
giving those federal agents some
no matter
relief
how
steps
much
of
of
the
these
building. But
people
look,
posing
John
a
is going to pan
threat,
down a
they
little bit for me. You can
still
see all the
nice.
cartridges from the less than lethal, from the
LAPD
things that were
there.
thrown, all the kind of debris that gets left. That's a water bottle. And I think there's some smoke bombs as well that the police department was throwing, as well as tear gas. So Santa Ana PD making some significant progress. And again, just like we saw in downtown LA, to get them away from the federal building. And
you know what? I bet when the LAPD train,
so John is telling me the top of the screen is actually the federal
they probably
courthouse.
got fucking
So the area at the bottom was a federal building
black,
where they have the
white,
detention center.
Hispanic,
and then up top there's the federal
high
courthouse.
risk,
They're actually
moderate, low risk.
away from one federal building,
training.
closer to another.
So
Now
they
you
got
see
the
some
black
cars
man
in the
as
mix,
high
but
risk
again,
as a
this,
criminal.
They
got the Mexican
splintering a
man
little
probably
bit as they take
moderate,
them away.
and they got the white
And the
dude
perspective
low
from above
risk.
is so important, as you mentioned earlier when you said
So when
we
they see
zoom out
black
so we
folk,
can
man,
see if
they
the
don't
police
be
are there,
nice.
and then there are police lines there too. Even when you're looking at some of these protests over the course of the last few days, if it's zoomed in, it looks sometimes bigger than it actually is. When you zoom out, it gives you a little bit more perspective. But there you can see the local, looks like Santa Ana police blocking off that street and really containing that situation, as opposed to those federal agents who were far outnumbered, who were standing in front of the federal building and taking projectiles from some of the demonstrators, a couple of whom were taunting them. But now you see it looks like it's much more under control, with local authorities kind of cordoning off that area.
And the question now is, where are those people dispersing to? They have scattered, as
they
we
going
can
to
see
fuck
from
something else
from our
up.
pictures from our chopper
They
shot.
finna go do.
We just wonder where they're. I don't know what we were looking at there for a moment. I thought those two might have been getting into. Did you notice that? The federal agent and the other gentleman with the black?
Bumping into each other there.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that was just a friendly bump or a kindly bump.
Shit.
But, you know,
they
we haven't talked about them
this is our jurisdiction. No, this is our
gathering
jurisdiction.
somewhere else in particular.
When it comes to the niggas, they ain't no jurisdiction. They just go.
You know, I would imagine that would create another problem.
They just go.
Even though the federal building has been the thrust of where these demonstrations have taken place, because that's where the ICE raids, that's where they facilitate from.
All right, LAPD,
and possibly,
get on what y'all
but
get
I
on.
think Michelle said that's not where
They're whooping their ass,
people,
though, man.
So we still don't know exactly where they're
Don't
being
get
taken.
involved, but they are
I think,
involved.
I don't know if Orange County, I know in LA County they've got the Metropolitan Detention Center. That's in downtown. I don't know if Orange County Jail has a contract with ICE for detainers.
Well, I know the city said that we are a sanctuary city. A couple of the city council people have come forward and said we will not be assisting in immigration efforts. They stopped short of. Something's happening here.
Where they going? Yeah, get him. They got him.
They caught up to him.
They got him. Take his ass there. Get him out of here. Get his ass out of here. Get him out of here. Yup.
Well, it looks like he didn't change his sweatshirt.
So
after
didn't.
all.
He ain't changed a motherfucking thing, dumbass motherfucker. Yup. Send him on. Send him on.
That pointed the
Send him on.
Yeah, and he
send him on his way. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be not a good citizen. Send him on his way.
And it's important to remember too, when you get arrested by the feds, you are not
facing
his
dumbass in there with
charges. I mean, you're not facing disorderly conduct charges at a local level, which carry a much less severe punishment than federal charges. I mean, you know, Mr. Huerta in Los Angeles County, you know, he is facing, the last time they charged somebody for the same thing they're charging Mr. Huerta for, that couple faced 7 years, 6 years in federal prison. I mean, these are not small charges
the fuck out of here.
when you get arrested at the federal level.
And this person was clearly, I mean, you know, throwing.
Yeah, what the fuck he got on? Oh, he got on a purge mask. You one of them.
Out there for everybody to see. But
you got on a
purge. He was doing a lot more.
Purge?
And I think I can safely say that. Yeah, I mean,
and they were hot about him.
Yeah. when you mentioned David Huerta, I mean, this clearly
is
not that.
Get him the fuck out of here.
And interesting, you know, he had the mask on. They ripped the mask off. That has been a sticking point that President Trump has been kind of harping on, that these protesters, legally, he says, are not allowed to wear masks, and they should be ripping the masks off. And, you know, Sunday morning on Face the Nation, Margaret Brennan had Kristen Noem on to ask, how are you going to do that? Are you going to have federal agents rip off masks and like wearing them? She wouldn't really answer the question, but you saw that happen in this situation. So we'll be curious, and we can try to reach out and figure out what they're going to charge this guy with.
And as far as the mask
this is
concerned,
the United States of
federal
America.
agents should wear them because they didn't want them being doxxed.
Right.
By the public.
You can't do that shit
and let's not forget
with
that
it.
This is not just ICE agents. These are DEA, FBI, ATF, groups of people that do lots of undercover operations. And at some point, they will have to go back to that world once however this shakes out is done, whether it's in 4 years or whether it's sooner than that. They'll go back to their regular roles at their respective agencies, and they may need to still protect their identity when they do that.
Man, I'll be making that nigga run all into the
pole. Making
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Talk about making an example.
He
walking him over up the steps.
Man, they nice, man. They too
in front of everybody.
Nice.
They did not forget about him.
Yeah. Bright yellow sweatshirt makes it kind of hard.
Okay. I don't say anything about, I mean, we've seen, and the reason I brought that up is how many changes that we follow where the person can go in and try to camouflage themselves by taking off the jacket. So obviously, maybe this guy didn't care or didn't think about that.
And we've heard this from numerous officials and authorities throughout these press conferences. Like, if you might be going home tonight after this protest, talking to people who are vandalizing and causing violence and arson, etc. You might go home tonight, but we will find you. We have video of you. And you will be arrested at some point.
I want his link
card. Saying that.
Give me all of that. And I don't even live in
We just heard that Michelle can talk to us now. And Michelle, we've seen a lot of things happen since we last spoke with you. We noticed they did just take into custody this guy, this protester that was throwing projectiles at those federal officers who really became pretty upset with him. But now he's in custody.
Yeah, and it looks now like the crowd is mobilizing once again in front of the steps there at the Civic Center. I have been listening to some of the questions that you've had specifically about detainees as at the Orange County Women's Central Jail, which is off in the distance there. And I have called the Sheriff's Department to check on this. At one time, I do know that ICE detainees were held in our jail, that being the Orange County Jail, not to be mistaken with the Santa Ana City Jail, which is just across the street from the Men's Central Jail. The Sheriff's Department tells me that they are going to check for me on that information. They do not believe that ICE detainees are held there, but the sergeant is going to make 100% certain and get back to me shortly on that.
At the jail, y'all marching
bringing us up to date on the situation here, you know, this is a cat and mouse game, right? So the protesters, the demonstrators get close. Some of them taunt the federal officers. That then prompts them to set off the less lethal smoke bombs and the pepper balls and that kind of thing. Earlier, I think it was the 4 o'clock hour. Tim Kimball, my photographer, was in the crowd there, and he got hit with one of the pepper balls that ricocheted off the ground or hit him in the stomach. He is fine and rinsed his eyes and was able to continue shooting video for us, and we're very appreciative of that, of course. So as the sun goes down here, people are getting off work. They're showing up with their signs. Lots of young people here. They've got their flags, and like I said, it ebbs and flows. They get closer to that line of federal officers. Some of them get too close, and then the smoke bomb goes off and the pepper balls go off, and everyone retreats. They run back in the direction where I am through Sasser Park. which is just,
a joke.
gosh, 500
y'all
feet
act like y'all
from
came
the
over here
entrance
when
to
we
that
came
building.
over here.
And
If I'm
things
not
calmed down for a few minutes, and then they're back at it again.
If I'm not mistaken,
I also checked in with Santa Ana police. You've seen that their skirmish line has moved quite a bit up from where they were about an hour ago. Santa Ana maintains the police department that they are here to, for public safety, and also to make sure that there is not vandalism or any sort of destruction. So I asked whether they might start shooting off pepper balls or the smoke bombs, and the officer who is in charge of the media there said, again, they are here for public safety and to make sure that there is not destruction or defacement of buildings and things in Santa Ana. So you see the situation here now.
Public safety, shit. That's what they want to do. They want to vandalize shit.
And
fuck it, go at them.
I predict that in a few minutes things are going to change, because that's what's been going on here for the past 3 hours or so.
Man, they don't want to be here, man.
You know, that's interesting.
They don't want to be here, man.
I don't
let them
remember
go.
hearing about much
Let them go. Let them go. Let them go.
Yesterday, last night, and it seems like today certainly has been a different story. Maybe that's because of some of the raids that took place in those businesses that we were talking about. So I'm sure Santa Ana.
Send all the men back, but leave the women. Now y'all can leave some of the women. Leave them.
Nothing.
But send the men back.
Even close happens to what happened in downtown Los Angeles last night. But I'm sure they have to be ready.
Get them the fuck out of here.
Okay, here we go. So now the crowd running back toward us.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
Something has obviously gone on near the staircase where the federal officers are. It looks like I can see some smoke in the distance, and now everyone is running toward us.
Y'all running scared. Ain't nothing but little smoke.
We can hear it.
The sheriff's department, yep, that's an M80 or some sort of firecracker set off, I believe, by demonstrators.
M80. That's what
the
that
sheriff's
was.
department
Fucking
has gotten
M80.
back to me. Orange County Sheriff does not house
weak ass shit.
ICE detainees, anyone arrested for immigration through the federal government. So it is unclear where the people who we believe are taken into custody today around Orange County were taken. Maybe somewhere in LA County, maybe another county. We may have a facility here in this complex, just not clear on that. But we know they're not in the Santa Ana City Jail. And we know that they are not in the Orange County Sheriff's Department Men's Central Jail.
A lot of y'all got to go to work.
The women's jail.
A lot of y'all got to go to work. Stop it. A lot of y'all got to open up businesses. Y'all don't really want it.
Taken, Michelle, and I say that because a lot of people still, at this day, from what we've heard, family members that were taken into detention on Friday, Saturday, that they have been denied access to family members, so they don't necessarily know. Well, they believe that they're being held at the Metro Detention Center in Los Angeles.
See what I'm saying?
I guess they're not even 100% certain.
I mean, I think the fact that Michelle has been reporting and asking authorities, and they don't even know, I think that says volumes about this entire situation. Not knowing where people are being held, where they're being transported.
And
in many
talk
cases,
to his people.
People have children.
Tell them
and
stand down,
their children. So I think it says a lot that
tell them you deported more people
than
Trump.
Some of the people in charge of these institutions and law enforcement.
It just wasn't a lot of them. It's probably some Afghanistans, a couple of the Muslims from the Muslim countries. I don't believe it was a lot of y'all. Might have been some.
This has taken on a very, very different tone with the.
We need Michelle. Where's Kamala? Where's Kamala Harris at? Where y'all at?
Information that's being.
See, what they're getting ready to do is they're getting ready for the next campaign. They're getting ready to use this as fucking fuel. Watch what I tell you.
To Los Angeles, 2,000 already here.
That's why they ain't saying, and they ain't telling them they don't want them to stand down. They're gonna blame this on Trump.
Now that we're talking about that, do we know exactly what the Marines will do when they get here?
This is really sick.
What they can do?
All we've been told is that they will join in with the National Guard and that they will continue to support the federal mission. And we don't really know what that might be. I mean, is that continuing to guard the federal buildings? Are they going to go out with federal immigration officers as they conduct operations, immigration operations, we don't know. They will join in, and they say, quote, seamlessly join in with the California National Guard and be under that same command of that 2-star general that is commanding the California National Guard right now. But they've been, honestly and probably intentionally vague about what they're going to be doing because we just don't know their plan, right? We don't know if they're going to go out in the streets and assist with these, enforcement actions. They said they will be there to protect federal employees. So that makes you wonder if they're going to be going out and assisting in some of these raids, or at least providing protection while federal immigration agents do their work.
Let's mention, so far we have not heard of any
protection
agent that has
somebody
been
coming to their
as a result
senses.
of conducting raids. That doesn't
Somebody
mean
told
it didn't
somebody
happen.
something
We
like, at
haven't
least
heard
let
that.
them do
We
that.
don't have
I
any
know
don't.
Friday night or
number.
Saturday,
It's
the
like
FBI did put out a
contributing
flyer
to,
saying they were looking
whatever
for a person that
happens to
assaulted
them.
a federal agent. We didn't hear about that federal agent necessarily being injured
Somebody
to the
must have
point
thought
of needing
about that.
medical treatment, but they did say that they were at least looking for that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just picking up on what you said about.
Look at all that. Y'all got to go to where y'all be ashamed of y'all. And y'all employers ain't going to fire y'all. Y'all employers ain't going to do nothing.
I mean, that was what,
y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
And they were not
disrespecting law enforcement like that. That means you disrespect law enforcement on the job.
Conduct their operation. And it got to a point
and
where
they think you can get away with it.
Kind of got bottlenecked a little bit in there, and then I think some outside agents
like they be doing in court, thinking they slick. They be outside talking to their lawyer in English.
On how long it took LAPD
and then when they get up to the judge, they need
they
need an interpreter. When they get up to the judge, that's what it is. They need the interpreter. They don't know no English, but they talk to you in the hallway in English.
Armed. They were in helmets. I mean, they really showed up to get those guys out of there.
And you know what? We
then they get in front of the judge. Oh, you know English.
Them.
So now they gotta get an interpreter for them.
Yeah, I mean, remember
they
LAPD
get to play the role
a minute and then just decided like,
fuck that.
This is going to be on you guys. It ended up being in that parking lot where all those federal agents were staging.
Yeah.
And then the protesters figured out that they were staging there, began to protest.
All my legal Mexicans that work to get here is really putting in work. Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all for putting in that work. Shout out for y'all for taking the time to put in the application to do what you had to do. Shout out to you all, man. This is no shade to you all. I love you guys that do the right thing, man.
And to my knowledge, that was the only time we saw federal law enforcement engage in crowd control operations.
And maybe LAPD was behind.
See, the legal Mexicans, they can get up and do whatever they want. They ain't worried about this shit.
Right, potentially. And on the right side of your screen looks like live pictures from Michelle, and I think that's probably another pepper spray or tear gas, cleaning going on there. You can see it pouring water in his eyes.
Okay, yeah, and that's why it's so important to have, let me just note, our very credible reporters on the ground witnessing and bringing live pictures as to what is actually happening. Because if you hear different reports and if you hear it summarized by, let's say, Washington, D.C. versus the city of L.A., it's two very different stories, right? So we have a team of reporters who have been covering this from the very beginning, in the middle of all of this chaos, as we try to sort out exactly what is going on as all of these federal agents and troops are being brought in to Southern California. We want to go now to Leslie Marine.
As we mentioned, 700 Marines are being sent to Los Angeles to work with the National Guard as the state is filing a lawsuit to get them out. Here's State House Leslie Marine. Hey, Leslie.
Yeah, Pat, you guys have been talking about it, right? Moments ago, the governor posted on social media that he is being informed that the president will be deploying another 2,000 National Guard troops on top of the nearly 300 that are already here. We know over the weekend he wanted 2,000 here, but the governor says that right now it's about 300. Now, the Pentagon has also confirmed that. The governor claims most of the troops that are here in Los Angeles are sitting unused in federal buildings and called the move reckless and pointless. Now, the U.S. Northern Command has confirmed that those 700 Marines from 29 Palms will land in Los Angeles in the next 24 hours. And we spoke about this. Their job will be to help the National Guard protect federal personnel and federal property.
Yeah.
This all coming as the governor is now suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard without his consent. The state is asking a judge to not only declare the call-up of the National Guard troops unconstitutional, but also they want the court to halt any future deployments. Now, we know that the governor and the president, well, they haven't spoken since Friday, but today the president backing up the idea of having the governor arrested for challenging the White House's mobilization of the troops. Meanwhile, local and federal leaders
Yeah, this is crazy. I ain't never heard the federal government challenging the state government and since the fucking Civil War.
He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order.
What we saw yesterday happened after the president's unnecessary, counterproductive, and most importantly, unlawful order.
Well,
it's just all about Trump, man. This ain't got nothing to do with the people. This is all about this, man. Trying to make this man look bad, trying to have some.
This
is why we voted for this man to
Meanwhile, Governor Newsom has addressed the statement saying that would be a line that cannot be crossed as a nation.
These Democrats are so salty they lost. They so salty voted for Donald Trump. They are pissed.
And of course,
they won't let
the
it go.
president and the White House we're working to get that information to you.
These motherfuckers setting fires and everything. Oh,
right,
but
so much,
we didn't
Leslie,
need y'all to do that. We was gonna let them burn everything, and then once they burn enough shit, then we're gonna get involved.
Yeah, this is still in Santa Ana, and what we are seeing, and John, if you can pan down just a just a touch rather, it looks like people are beginning to, peacefully, essentially surrender. I would say. I don't think they have been told by law enforcement to take that position, but we often see that when people decide this is our peaceful protest, we're going to sit or we're going to lay, we're not going to move, take us into custody if you so choose. So that is what is happening, or what appears to be happening there in Santa Ana, where you have this group. I think once they arrested that guy in the yellow sweatshirt, they've thrown so much tear gas at it. The rest of the people that are here, and I don't want to say everybody because I haven't seen everybody, but appears to be a more peaceful kind of civil group. Santa Ana PD, I haven't seen in the last couple of minutes shoot any, tear gas, pepper balls, smoke, anything like that. So you've got this group, and it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe people laying down there on the ground that are probably signaling that they're ready to be arrested.
Okay, Mike, thanks for that.
Well, good.
I guess different story.
About time.
Back
Y'all
in
used
downtown
our
Los
common
Angeles,
sense.
where our Lori Perez is. And Lori, we understand that it's getting pretty loud there right now.
People got to go to work. People got to sleep.
It is loud, definitely, but we are at yet another kind of stopping point. The police have pushed the protesters further down South Alameda Street towards the Arts District, if you can picture that in your head. And we've kind of just been stopped here for about 15, 20 minutes with the force of law enforcement facing off with the protesters. You can see them just kind of opposite of each other right here in the street. Lots of yelling going on, of course, lots of emotions pretty high, but so far no action, no actual physical confrontations that we have seen. It's hard to know what the plan is here. They've been taking them down the streets. We were surprised, frankly, when they brought them through Little Tokyo, which is kind of a bustling business district. And now we're on kind of a more residential street where they've been kind of stopped for a few minutes now. So hopefully this crowd seems to be kind of thinning out, and
they should have been saying, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. That's how you know they're not Americanized.
And now they're
because American people always chant that.
I don't know what precipitated
hell
that
no,
running. There was
we won't go. They don't know what to say and do. They don't know how to do this shit. We do. We the masters of this protest shit.
Right there that made
y'all don't know what to do.
Running.
Y'all are fucking lost.
I do see
y'all
them
are lost for words. All y'all can do is set fires and shit.
Into custody.
We bigger than that.
Or they detained him.
We top dog when it comes down to this protest shit.
And now you hear
ain't
the
nobody
bang.
fucking with the niggas.
Going on that's kind of
because the niggas had to fight all their life.
This increase in activity here.
Life.
Now we're on the move once again. So we're moving. Again, this is South Alameda. We are heading towards the Arts District. A crowd.
Niggas they be ready to get something done. They be ready to take a knee.
So people, it's hard for me to see. You guys probably
act like they gonna make a law.
Vantage point from SkyCal, but oops. And now, see, this is where it's going to get ugly again because now they're throwing glass bottles.
The Democrat Party is using these people, man, just to get at Trump. That's all it is, man. They can easily just watch this shit, man, and get some order going. But this is all fuel they trying to use against Trump, which is stupid because it's going to backfire on them.
We see officers
I don't even think Trump can run again anyway. But whoever step up, they're going to say, look what the Republicans did. It won't be Donald Trump. It will be what the Republicans did.
That's what we notice.
Yeah, Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, we don't, of course, know the police strategy, but like I said, we've been all standing here for probably 15, 20 minutes, nothing going on except for a lot of yelling. And then all of a sudden, we saw the police kind of mobilize. We saw the crowd start to run. So, we see this from time to time, and you can already see now it's kind of de-escalated. And, we moved just not that far down the street, and once again they've stopped. So this is kind of a repeat of what we saw yesterday evening, yesterday afternoon, with these crowds as they kind of splintered off, and police had to kind of address the crowds in different parts of the city.
You know what, Laura, you were on the scene when during the BLM protests. So can you, just now, what's the difference here?
Yes.
When I asked you before about is it organized? Are there people that are on megaphones or, talking to the crowd, either encouraging them or reminding them of why they're there? Can you point that out or maybe make the contrast?
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question. I think during the BLM protests, first of all, they were much larger, consistently larger for the days that we were covering them. And they did seem to be more on point. There were lots of organizers who were continually leading the chants, changing the chants, or people just on megaphones kind of elucidating their viewpoint about what was happening and their viewpoint about the issues for that protest. We have not seen that as much here today, at least. Yesterday, we did see a little bit of that, but not as much. Here, we have seen also, I will say, much more destruction, much more profanity written on the streets and on the buildings and the walls. So it's a kind of a different tone, I would say, to this protest than the BLM protests. But again, I think I was mentioning earlier, even today, from yesterday,
niggas came
the demographic was quite a range of ages in that crowd. Young and old and even families.
But still,
and this crowd here
it was good
is
for
a
the
much
moment.
Younger crowd. It's a much, late teens, 20s kind of crowd. And that in and of itself sometimes, depending on the group of people, that creates a different atmosphere in that group of people. And that's what we've seen here today.
All right. I'm glad you explain that, Lori, because I just remembered top of mind what happened during those protests, and I know you were there. So I figured you can sort of, walk us through what's happening. And maybe it kind of makes you wonder if it's
BLM
not maybe
was
social
one point.
media that
George
has really
Floyd
driven
happened,
people to
and it was,
to the sites where they are.
This is more so about keeping people from leaving that's illegal.
To be really a lot of organization or
it's not the
particular
same.
leaders.
It's not the same. I said it's not the same. It's not the same.
And I will say in both those protests and in these protests last night, at the end of the night, towards the end, you always seem to get kind of the agitators, right? The troublemakers who are not necessarily connected to the cause that brought the people out, but who are just trying to take advantage of a chaotic situation. We saw that in BLM, and we saw that last night as well with some of the unrest that happened, some of the tagging and some of the looting. Those were not people who I would consider necessarily connected to the cause that brought out the bulk of people over the weekend. They're just, hangers-on.
Troublemakers.
They
troublemakers.
Use it to their advantage.
Getting people in trouble.
Does it feel like the crowds have kind of come together? Because we've been looking at different pockets in downtown LA with various protests, but very geographically close to each other. Does it look like they're kind of coming into a unified crowd, or are they just in pockets around downtown LA?
I think they're in pockets around downtown LA, and I think that it would certainly be the strategy of the police to not allow them to kind of recongregate. This crowd, we're way on the outskirts now from where we were yesterday. I mean, yesterday we were way further north towards the 101. We're heading towards the 10 this way and towards the Arts District. So I think they really are trying to dissipate them. I mean, it's difficult for me to know because I'm just with this crowd, but we have not seen them growing in number in terms of actually meeting up with other groups of protesters. I will tell you, I can hear here on the ground, I hear a lot of glass breaking, so perhaps things are escalating as they move further down towards the Arts District.
All right, our Lori Perez joining us live from downtown LA, where those protests have now continued for a fourth day. We want to say good evening to everyone and welcome you to an early edition of KCAL News at 8 alongside Juan Fernandez and Mike Rogers at the desk. Good evening, everyone. I'm Susie Sa. Again, we have been following these protests, continuing coverage here on KCAL News in various parts of Southern California tonight, not only in downtown LA, but also in Santa Ana, where protests have also gotten very heated as well. This after immigration raids, we believe, over the weekend as well and today. And Mayor Karen Bass with the city of Los Angeles saying today that she believes that there have been 5 at least known raids that have taken place.
Yeah, she should have been.
And because of that, there have been a lot of passions and anger and families who have no answers right now as to where their loved ones might be, and a lot of people who are concerned about that.
And this has been going on again, as Susie was saying, since Friday when those first raids played out at a Home Depot, at a donut shop, and of course at that fashion house in downtown Los Angeles, where the bulk of the protests started on Friday, and it started escalating over the weekend, Friday into Saturday, then Saturday into Sunday, and of course Sunday being the worst that we've seen so far.
That's right. First time we're seeing in Orange County today, as we've been talking about another protest that started up in Orange County late this afternoon. Let's go live now to our Orange County reporter, Michelle Geely, who is live there on the ground to tell us more now. Michelle?
What a dumbass doing?
We've just been hit with
see?
smoke from the pepper spray. So let me go back to you guys, and we'll come back when we can catch our breath.
All right, Michelle, you do that. You take care of yourself and your photographer.
Y'all better get the fuck from around
over the weekend. Mike Rogers,
that job is dangerous. I couldn't do it.
And photographers being
probably pay a
in
lot
the
of
fire
money,
when it
but I
comes to some of
couldn't
these
do it.
pepper balls and also the
I'd
tear
be the
gas
weatherman.
cannons.
I'd do
Yeah,
that.
and you know, Tim Kimball's already been hit. Tim Kimball, Michelle's photographer, has already been hit by tear gas a couple times tonight. He actually got a pepper ball to his torso when all of that was happening. And I do want to update the situation in Santa Ana because that has been kind of evolving, and you can see they are still using tear gas. They pushed those people away from the federal steps where they were, and now they're pushing them actually towards the federal building. So we're continuing to monitor that situation. SkyCal is going to head back downtown. I also want you to know that there's now starting to be, as we look live now, this is again in Santa Ana here, as Michelle and her photographer Tim Kimball doing a great job and obviously pushing away far enough away from where the law enforcement line is. And you can see just behind that flag, that Mexican flag, you can make out the patrol car there on the right-hand side. You can see that line of police officers that is there trying to quell that crowd and push them back. Now, it looks like there is a mix of federal officers as well as local Santa Ana Police Department officers. What we had been dealing with, the situation we've been dealing with earlier, is that federal law enforcement was far outnumbered from the protesters that were standing on the steps. We saw a really intense situation with a protester was wearing a mask and was wearing a yellow sweatshirt that was throwing things at federal law enforcement agents. One of those agents with a lethal munition, a lethal weapon, a rifle, was actually pointing it at that protester and kind of waving his hand towards him. And you see what we're looking at right now is people pouring water on their eyes. That is to get rid of and you can see the pain that they're in. I mean, tear gas is not a fun situation at all. Pouring water is your second option. Milk really is the best thing to pour on your eyes if you're in that situation. But you can see these guys are just, continuing to pour. But I want to point out, they've been tear gassed. They know how badly it hurts, and they're still in the area.
That's right.
Right? So these people are still wanting to protest. And I would say, with the exception of a couple of people in that situation, it has been fairly calm out there. There have certainly been people that have been kind of giving it to the federal agents there and going back and forth with them. We saw that tackle of one of the federal agents that took that person down into custody, ripped the mask off his face. But they're still launching tear gas and pepper balls and all of those things at these protesters. Michelle got caught up in it. You see other people here getting caught up in it as well that are dealing with all of this situation as Michelle and Tim Kimball try to walk back. And we apologize for the people that are less than happy to see our cameras there as the situation is tense, it's heated, and there's a lot going on down there.
No doubt. And this is Michelle Geely's camera that we're looking at right now, Mike.
Correct.
And throughout the day, it's kind of ping-pong between downtown LA and Santa Ana.
Right.
Things kind of get heated in downtown, things calm down in Santa Ana, then it's the reverse. And nightfall is not too far from right now, so a big concern with that.
Yeah, it's definitely the ebb and flow. And what's happening in Santa Ana, the reason we believe that it popped off in Santa Ana today is because there were raids in Santa Ana. Michelle had told us there was one at a Carl's Jr., one at a Home Depot, and that's how this all started on Friday when we had the raids in LA County.
Right.
And there's Michelle. I don't know if she can hear us or if she's ready yet.
Michelle, are you okay?
Yes. Sorry. Yes. That's a first for me. I apologize. I thought that I could run faster than the smoke, and that didn't happen, obviously. But 2 people here were so kind and just doused me with water, and we're good. Everybody seems to be fine here, but okay, they're pouring milk in a woman's eyes here. That was powerful and strong and unexpected, honestly, although it has been happening for the last several hours. But it looked as though maybe there were some officers taking people into custody, and we were trying to kind of get a view of that. And then the officers started lobbing deep into the crowd, because we've kind of tried to keep ourselves farther back so we can not be hit with it. But they were throwing these projectiles, this less than lethal stuff, very, very deep into the crowd, so really not many people could escape it. Jim got hit again. Okay, here we go again. We're going to move. Okay. We're going to move back so we don't get hit again. Because like I said, they're throwing very deep into the crowd, obviously trying to push everybody out of this area. Just to put it in perspective, people are running toward Ross Street. So this is Santa Ana Boulevard and Ross Street, right near the very, very large federal courthouse, the Reagan building. So the tactic must be to get people away from that one federal building where they have blocked the door, and where earlier in the day employees were trying to get out. And so they're trying to drive people into the center of town, which is kind of the historic Old Town district.
Michelle, we appreciate your reporting so much, but we do want you and your photographer to stay safe. So please, if you can get to a safer area for us, and we will come back to you. But as you can see from Michelle's picture, things getting pretty intense there in Santa Ana as protesters sort of walk back from the law enforcement agencies who are pushing them back from the federal building right now.
And there's that confusion, Susie. Was it a firework? Was it an explosion? Was it another round of tear gas? Was it the less than lethal weapons that are being thrown into the crowds there? Very confusing. So our Michelle Gillian, her photographer, they're going to move into an area that's a little bit safer. But you can see, as Michelle's talking about wanting to disperse the crowd, you can see where some of those orange barriers are and where the crowd is now. They've created quite a bit of separation between the federal building there and where these people are running.
All right, we have another reporter on the ground. Let's go to our Tom Waite now, who joins us live. Tom, where are you?
And Susie, we're just about a half a block away from LAPD headquarters. You can see it there just up the block. There's a gathering of officers just out in front. This is 1st Street in Los Angeles. Still a lot of people out on the streets tonight, kind of walking around.
It's the Magic City.
Air support. We're not too far from Lori Perez. She's a few blocks down the street from us, kind of in an area, I think, where there's a higher concentration of people. There's still a lot of volatility here, you know, as this is kind of the area where a lot of some of the skirmishes between police and the crowd played out. Just a short time ago, I saw police having to use their less than lethal weapons. They fired some of those some of those objects back at protesters when they were being hit with objects, either water bottles or other objects that were being thrown. Sometimes plastic, sometimes glass bottles were being thrown. In fact, I was just standing next to a group of officers a few minutes ago when a glass bottle was hurled at them and came very close to hitting all of us. So it's still a volatile situation out here. There's still a lot, there's a lot of anger here on the streets, and a lot of people, I think, just trying to channel that in a way that is practical and also nonviolent. But of course, there's also people out here still causing a lot of problems. In fact, it's even hard to show you some video and some shots because we have so much there's so much graffiti out here with a lot of bad language. So we're trying to avoid showing a lot of that stuff. But it does look like the LAPD has done a pretty effective job, and maybe there's other departments out here as well, done a pretty effective job in breaking things up. There's not a large concentration of people here as we've seen the last few nights. Obviously, that's by design. They're trying to get people to leave and to move on to avoid another night of confrontations and violence. The LAPD has just a swarm of officers right up the street from us, and they're also positioned at various buildings, City Hall, some of the other buildings downtown, county buildings, and other office buildings where there's been a lot of graffiti or vandalism. So I think they're trying to tamp this all down now, and it's unclear if any of these National Guard soldiers have arrived or Marines. We've not seen any of them, at least not in a way that some dramatic arrival, right? So what we're seeing and I think you're seeing now down the road there is a larger concentration of some of the remnants of the larger crowd that was out concentrated
get their ass
in
up
the
out of
City
here,
Hall
man.
area. If you were watching our coverage earlier, kind of
Hit
where
the
Jackson's
road,
deal
Jack.
was. So
Don't
a lot
you
of those
come
people
back
were pushed
no
out.
more.
They moved columns of officers in, started firing some tear gas and other non-lethal deterrent measures, and that kind of really broke things up. That was probably a couple hours ago, maybe.
Glad
really
black folks ain't out there, man.
We were,
Shit.
and now you kind of see them push down the block there.
Because it ain't no
That's still
secret
on
the
First
blacks
Street,
and the
just
Mexicans
down the
don't get
street
along.
there,
It ain't no
and that's kind of where
secret out
everybody
there,
seems to
man.
be. That seems to be the largest
Some
amount
of
of
them are
people
cool, but a
that
lot
I've
of them don't get
seen
along.
in
They segregated
the
in
several
the
block area that
jails.
we've been walking around.
They go to war with
near
each other
City
all the
Hall.
time in the
So
prison
that kind of gives you a lay
It's
of
no
the land
secret,
right now.
man.
It's interesting because at times things seem kind of quiet,
No
and
secret
then
that they
I think
terrorized
Laura Perez was just
some of them
saying
folks
it can,
out there.
It can turn in a
Some,
second.
with gang
someone
members.
throws
Some
something,
wasn't.
or someone revs up an engine and hits the gas, and
No
it can
secret
really
what's
sort of
going
rile
on
people
out
up.
in Cali,
But
man.
at this
Y'all
point
better
right now,
open your
it
eyes.
looks
There's no
like
secret.
they've done a pretty effective job with their tactics anyway of getting people dispersed.
Yeah, it's great to see this, Tom, because not only are we seeing people walking hand in hand, we saw a couple walking through there. You do see some protesters as well, but Susie, look at this. They're letting traffic through the area as well.
It's true. So,
Yep.
Tom,
Get
I was
them the
wondering,
fuck
those
out of
people
there.
who were passing you by, the demonstrators, are they walking away from the larger group that was broken up?
It looks, Susie, right now like people are kind of walking toward the larger crowd that's down the street from me. I think that's the crowd that Lori was following earlier. So that crowd, I think a lot of those people were near the spot where I am right now, which is basically like just a block away from City Hall, less than that. So that seems to be where everybody's moving. I can see a LAPD chopper kind of hovering in that area. Kind of, I think it might be near Japantown, in that area there.
Little Tokyo, yeah.
It seems like that's where Little Tokyo, excuse me. People have moved. Thank you for correcting me on that.
No problem, Tom. Of course.
But yeah, that is the area where you're seeing people in concentration. I think the police kind of in a more macro way are doing what they do when people are concentrated in
They
one
got
spot.
that whole street clear. Look, traffic can come through now.
They, when they form those skirmish lines, they kind of collapse, and it kind of disperses the crowd. It seems like that's what they're doing, just sort of on a larger scale, and they move in very quickly, and it's kind of like a shock and awe kind of thing. It scares people. They run, they scatter, and that's kind of what we've been seeing playing out in the last couple hours.
Fuck these people, man. They illegal. They come over here illegal. I don't care what none of these motherfuckers say. I don't care what the Democrat Party say. I don't care what Father Michael Flager gotta say. I don't care what none of them gotta say. Chewy Garcia. I don't care what none of y'all gotta say. They here illegally. Now, do that for the people that committed crimes illegally. Do the same shit. Stand up for them people. Stand up for Larry Hoover, who just got commuted on a federal level. I don't hear y'all saying, hey, Governor Pritzker, let Hoover go. These people, let them go. Let them be. Leave them alone. Don't deport them.
Said that there
Don't
are
this.
regular
Don't
agitators who show up at these demonstrations. They cause
But
trouble.
y'all
So
just
they're
say,
aware
well,
that this is going to happen.
well,
right,
we
Mike? They
appreciate
know
you,
that
Donald
there's
Trump. Well,
the
not
people
even
who are
fuck
out there
appreciate,
protesting
motherfucker, man.
peacefully, as
Look,
we've
Donald
seen,
Trump, you
and then
commuted.
these
Hoover,
folks that kind of like
I
mix
tell
in
you
with the
what,
crowd
on our
and maybe
pod,
the
man, we
first
gonna
ones
let
to
them
throw a
go.
bottle or
Nope.
to throw out a firework.
Y'all
and
ain't
then
letting Hoover go.
Suddenly everything changes.
Y'all still holding that
Very
man,
quickly, and
making him do prison time.
I
But
think the
these
crowd that we're
folks,
seeing, at least in downtown LA,
illegal
Santa Ana
as
was a little
hell,
bit
commit a
different, but at least in
crime.
downtown
Y'all
LA,
want them to stay
this
here.
is the type of activity
Man,
that
it
the
don't make
mayor
sense,
and
man. That's why I
governor
say,
and all
man,
those people have been saying. This is what
it's
it
us
should be.
and them. That's it.
Express your
Nothing
First Amendment
more,
right,
nothing
be
less.
here,
I'm sick of this
protest, do what you
bullshit.
want,
Y'all
don't
have a
get
good
violent.
night.
And this is the crowd now
Peace.
that you're looking at